Oh, money. We think about it every day, don't we? It seems so simple now. You go to the store, you hand over a few coins, and you get a delicious snack. But have you ever stopped to wonder where it all began? Before there were shiny round pieces of metal in Japan, things were much different. Imagine a world with no wallets, no purses, and certainly no cash registers. It sounds a bit inconvenient, doesn't it? For centuries, people in ancient Japan lived in a world of barter. If you were a fisherman with a great catch, you might trade your extra fish for some rice from a farmer. Life was a direct exchange of goods and services. This system worked, but it had its problems. What if the rice farmer didn't want your fish today? What if you needed a new pot, but the potter didn't need any fish at all? It could get very complicated very quickly. You'd have to find someone who had what you wanted and wanted what you had. To make things a little easier, people started using certain items as a kind of pre-money. These weren't coins, but they were things that everyone agreed had value. Think of things like beautiful seashells, shiny stones, or even arrowheads. These items were more portable than a basket of rice and were widely accepted as payment. Another important form of early money was rice itself, measured in units called koku. One koku was supposedly enough rice to feed one person for an entire year. Can you imagine? Your wealth wasn't counted in yen, but in how many people you could feed for a year. This system was used for official business, like paying taxes to the local lords. Even fabric held value. Bolts of fine silk or sturdy hemp cloth were used as a medium of exchange. It's fascinating to think that a beautiful piece of cloth could be just as valuable as a pile of coins is to us today. It truly was a different world. So for a very long time, Japan's economy ran on things you could see, touch, and use directly. Fish, rice, cloth, and arrowheads were the currency of the day. This system was deeply connected to the land and the skills of the people. It was practical, but it was also limiting. How could Japan grow and trade with other countries if its money was a bag of rice? A big change was needed. The country was on the cusp of a major transformation, one that would introduce a brand new shiny and very powerful idea, the coin, and that idea would come from a very powerful neighbor. So Japan was getting by with rice and cloth. It was fine, I suppose, but then they looked across the sea to China. China was a huge, powerful empire with a very sophisticated system. And what did they have? Coins. The Tang dynasty in China was minting beautiful, uniform bronze coins. The Japanese court saw this and thought, now that's a good idea. We should do that too. It was a way to show that Japan was a modern, centralized state, just like its impressive neighbor. It wasn't just about money, it was about status and power. The imperial family wanted to control the economy and look very official while doing it. In the year 708, the first official Japanese coin was born. It was called the Wado Kaichin. Doesn't that sound grand? It was a round bronze coin with a square hole in the middle, just like the Chinese coins it was based on. The square hole wasn't for decoration, you know. It was very practical. It allowed people to string the coins together, making them easier to carry and count. Imagine carrying a string of 100 coins instead of a heavy jingling bag. The government ordered these coins to be made from copper discovered in the Chichibu region, and they were very proud of this new domestic source of metal. The government was very excited about these new coins. They issued edicts, telling everyone they had to use them. They even offered titles and ranks to people who saved up large amounts of Wadakaichin. They really wanted this to work. The idea was to move away from the clunky barter system and create a smooth, unified economy controlled by the central government. The coins were meant to be used for everything, from buying daily necessities to paying taxes. It was a revolutionary concept for Japan, a huge leap from trading rice and cloth. It was the start of a whole new way of thinking about value. But, you know how it is. Just because the government tells you to do something, it doesn't mean everyone will listen. Many ordinary people were suspicious of these new metal discs. They were used to rice, which they could eat, and cloth, which they could wear. What could you do with a piece of bronze, really? It had no inherent use. Its value was based purely on the government's promise, and many people weren't ready to trust that yet. So while the Wado Kaichin was a historic first step, its journey was not going to be an easy one. The road to a coin-based economy was filled with bumps. So the government introduced the Wado Kaichin with great fanfare. But did it work? Well, not exactly as planned. After the first coin, the government tried to keep the momentum going. They issued a series of 12 different types of coins over the next 250 years. These were known as the Kocho Junisen, or the 12 coins of the imperial court. Each new emperor wanted to make his mark by issuing a new coin. But here's the problem. With each new issue, the quality of the coins got worse. The government started running out of copper, and they began mixing in other metals like lead. the coins became smaller, lighter, and uglier. People are not stupid, you know. They could see that these new coins were not as good as the old ones. They started hoarding the older, better quality coins and tried to get rid of the new, flimsy ones as quickly as possible. This led to a lot of confusion and a loss of faith in the government's money. The value of the coins dropped dramatically. Soon, a single coin could barely buy anything of value. It got so bad that people just gave up on them. They went back to what they knew and trusted, bartering with rice and cloth. It was simpler and more reliable than trying to figure out which coin was worth what on any given day. By the middle of the 10th century, the Japanese government just stopped making coins altogether. It was too much trouble, and nobody was using them anyway. For the next 600 years, Japan entered a period where no official government coins were minted. Can you imagine that? 6 centuries without the government producing any money. Local lords and powerful temples still needed a way to conduct large-scale trade. But there was no national currency to use. The grand experiment with coins seemed to have failed completely. The country slipped back into a decentralized economy with different regions using different forms of payment. This created a very interesting situation. The economy didn't just stop. Trade continued, especially with China and other parts of Asia. And what did those places have? Lots and lots of coins. So instead of using Japanese coins, people started using imported Chinese coins. Money from the Song and Ming dynasties flooded into Japan. It's quite ironic, isn't it? Japan stopped making its own coins, only to end up using coins from the very country that inspired them in the first place. This long silence in official minting set the stage for a new and even more complex chapter in Japan's monetary history. After centuries of using imported Chinese coins and local barter, Japan was a bit of a mess financially. Different regions used different standards, and there was no sense of economic unity. Then, a very powerful man named Toyotomi Hideyoshi came along in the late 16th century. He had managed to unify Japan politically, and now he wanted to unify it economically. Hideyoshi was a man who liked to think big. He wasn't interested in small copper coins for the common folk. No, he had his eyes on something much more impressive: gold. He wanted to create a currency that screamed power, wealth, and prestige. Hideyoshi ordered the creation of the largest gold coin the world had ever seen at the time, the Tensho Oben. This was not a coin for buying groceries. Oh no, this was a massive, oval-shaped plate of hammered gold weighing about 165 grams. It was hand-brushed with black ink to show its value and authenticity, signed by the master of the gold mint. These were not for circulation among the masses. They were primarily used for rewarding loyal daimyo, or feudal lords, and for large official transactions. Owning an oben was a status symbol. It was like owning a luxury car today, but much, much shinier. Besides the enormous oben, Hideyoshi also introduced a smaller, more practical gold coin called the koban. This was also an oval-shaped gold plate, but it was worth 1/10 of an oben. While still incredibly valuable, the koban was slightly more functional and could be used in high-level commerce and trade. Hideyoshi's goal was clear. He wanted to control the country's gold and silver mines and use that wealth to solidify his power. By creating a standardized gold currency, he could manage the economy from the top down and ensure that the country's wealth flowed through his hands. It was a brilliant and bold move. These gold coins fundamentally changed how wealth was perceived in Japan. Before, wealth was tied to land and rice production. Hideyoshi's system shifted the focus to precious metals. It created a clear hierarchy. Gold was for the ruling samurai class, while commoners were left to use older imported coins or continue bartering for their daily needs. It wasn't a system for everyone, but it was a system that worked for the powerful. Hideyoshi's gold coins laid the foundation for a more structured monetary system, one that would be perfected and expanded by the next great power to rule Japan, the Tokugawa shogunate. After Hideyoshi, the Tokugawa clan took over and established a shogunate that would rule Japan for more than 250 years. They saw the value in Hideyoshi's gold coins. But you know, they realized that a system based only on gold for the elite just wasn't enough to run a peaceful, stable country. They needed a currency system that worked for everyone, from the richest daimyo all the way down to the poorest farmer. So, they came up with a brilliant, unified, and very structured monetary system. It was called the Sanka, or the three coinage system, and it was based on 3 different metals: gold, silver, and copper. Each metal had its own purpose and was used by different social classes. Gold coins like the oban and koban continued to be the currency of the elite. These coins were used for large government payments and were the standard in the eastern city of Edo, which is modern-day Tokyo. Silver, on the other hand, was the main currency for the merchant class, especially in the western commercial hub of Osaka. Silver coins weren't counted, but were traded by weight. The main unit was the monmei. This actually created a bit of a headache, since the exchange rate between gold and silver could fluctuate daily, much like modern currency exchange rates. Merchants became very skilled at navigating these complex financial waters. Then there was copper, or actually, more accurately, bronze. This was the money of the common people. The most common coin was the kani tsuho. These were those round coins with a square hole in the middle, used for everyday purchases. You'd use them to buy food, pay for a bath, or maybe visit a temple. They were strung together in units of 100 or even 1,000 to make transactions easier. This three-tiered system cleverly reflected the rigid social structure of the Tokugawa period. Samurai dealt in gold, merchants in silver, and commoners in copper. It was, in a way, a perfect monetary mirror of their society. This system brought incredible stability to Japan for over 2 centuries. For the first time, there was a reliable, government-issued currency for every level of society. It fueled a booming domestic economy and led to the rise of a vibrant merchant class and, bustling cities. However, the system was also very rigid and isolated. The shogunate had a strict policy of sakoku, or national isolation, which limited foreign trade. This meant the sanka system developed in a bit of a bubble. But that bubble was about to burst. The arrival of Western powers in the mid-19th century would force Japan to rethink its entire world, including its money. The arrival of Commodore Perry's black ships in 1853 was a huge shock to Japan. The Tokugawa shogunate, which had seemed so strong, was unable to stand up to Western military technology. This led to a period of great turmoil and ultimately the downfall of the shogunate. In 1868, the Meiji Restoration returned power to the emperor. The new Meiji government knew that to compete with the West, Japan had to modernize, and fast. They looked at everything, from the military to the government, and decided that the old complicated sanka money system had to go. It was time for something new, something modern, something Western. In 1871, the government passed the New Currency Act. This was a massive change. It swept away the old gold koban, the silver by weight monmei, and the copper mon. In their place, a single new currency unit was introduced, the yen. The word yen simply means round object, a fitting name for a modern coin. The new system was also decimal-based, just like in the West. 1 yen was divided into 100 sen, and 1 sen was divided into 10 rin. It was simple, logical, and easy for everyone to understand. It was the end of a complex era and the beginning of modern Japanese money. To make these new coins, Japan needed new technology. The old way of hammering gold plates and casting bronze coins was not good enough. The Meiji government imported modern steam-powered minting machinery from Great Britain and established a new, state-of-the-art mint in Osaka. This mint began producing beautifully uniform machine-struck coins. The first yen coins were made of gold and silver, featuring designs like dragons, the rising sun, and the chrysanthemum seal of the imperial family. These designs were chosen to project an image of a powerful, proud, and modernizing Japan to the rest of the world. This wasn't just a change in money, it was a change in mindset. Adopting the yen and Western minting techniques was a powerful symbol of Japan's determination to join the international community as an equal. It made trade with other countries much easier and helped to unify the nation's economy under one standard. The transition wasn't always smooth, of course. It took time for people to get used to the new currency, but the government was determined. The yen was here to stay, and it would become the financial backbone of Japan's incredible transformation from a feudal society into an industrial powerhouse. The Second World War was a devastating period for Japan. The country's economy was in ruins, and its cities were destroyed. In the aftermath of the war, under Allied occupation, Japan had to rebuild from scratch. This included completely overhauling its currency system. During the war, coins were made from cheap metals like aluminum and tin because valuable materials like copper and nickel were needed for the war effort. After the war, massive inflation made the smaller denominations like the sen and rin completely worthless. They were officially taken out of circulation in 1953. The yen was now the base unit with no smaller divisions. The post-war period saw the birth of the coins we are familiar with today. The government needed to create a new set of coins for a new democratic and peaceful Japan. In 1948, the first 5 yen coin was issued. It had a hole in the middle, but this time it was round, not square. The design was full of symbolism for the new Japan, a stock of rice for agriculture, water for fisheries, and a gear for industry. These were the pillars of Japan's hoped-for economic recovery. The coin was made of brass, and its design has remained one of the most iconic and beloved in Japanese currency. Next came the 1 yen coin in 1955. Made of 100% aluminum, it is incredibly light. In fact, it's so light that it can float on water if you place it carefully. It costs more than 1 yen to produce one, which is an interesting little fact. The 10 yen coin, made of bronze, was introduced in 1951 and features the beautiful Byodoin Phoenix Hall in Uji, a famous temple. The 50 yen coin, first issued in 1955, and the 100 yen coin, first issued in 1957, were originally made of pure nickel and silver, respectively. These coins represented the growing strength and stability of the Japanese economy as it entered its period of miraculous growth. These new coins were more than just money. They were symbols of hope and reconstruction. The designs moved away from imperial and military symbols and instead celebrated Japan's culture, industry, and natural beauty. They were made for the people and reflected the country's new identity as a peaceful industrial nation. The materials changed over the years. For example, the 100 yen coin switched from silver to a more practical copper-nickel, but the core designs have remained. These coins were the small, everyday tools that helped power Japan's incredible journey from ashes to economic superpower. As Japan's economy boomed, there was a need for a higher value coin. Vending machines became incredibly popular, and using multiple 100 yen coins was becoming a hassle. So, in 1982, the Ministry of Finance introduced a brand new coin, the 500 yen coin. At the time of its introduction, it was one of the highest value circulating coins in the world. It was big, heavy, and made from a copper-nickel alloy. It was an instant success. People loved the convenience, and it quickly became a workhorse of the Japanese economy, used for everything from buying train tickets to getting a drink from a machine. However, its high value also made it a target for counterfeiters. In the late 1990s, a serious problem emerged. Altered South Korean 501 coins, which were similar in size and weight but worth much less, were being used to fool vending machines. This caused huge losses. The government had to act fast to protect the integrity of its currency. The solution was to create a new high-tech 500 yen coin that would be incredibly difficult to fake. In the year 2000, a new bimetallic coin was introduced. This version had a nickel-brass composition, a different weight, and some clever new security features. The new 500 yen coin was a marvel of minting technology. It included latent imaging, where the characters for 500 yen would appear when the coin was tilted at a certain angle. It also had micro-printing, tiny letters that are almost impossible to read with the naked eye. These features made it much harder to counterfeit. But the counterfeiters are always trying to catch up. So in 2021, Japan released a third version of the 500 yen coin. This one is even more advanced. It is a 3-layer, bicolor-clad coin with a copper core sandwiched between 2 different alloys. This gives it a distinct 2-tone appearance. This newest coin also has even more sophisticated security features. The ridges on the edge of the coin have a special helical shaping, which is very difficult to replicate. The engraving is finer and the latent imaging is more complex. The story of the 500 yen coin is a fascinating cat and mouse game between the government, mint, and counterfeiters. It shows how coin technology has to constantly evolve to stay one step ahead. It's no longer just about stamping a piece of metal. It's about embedding complex technology into an object that fits in your pocket. It's quite amazing when you think about it. Now that you know the long and fascinating history of Japanese coins, maybe you're thinking about starting your own collection. It's a wonderful hobby. But before you start, let's talk about some fun facts that make Japanese coins unique. Have you ever noticed something missing from Japanese coins? An emperor's face. Unlike many countries, Japan does not put portraits of emperors or political figures on its circulating currency. This is rooted in a deep cultural respect for the imperial family, viewing it as inappropriate to have their image on something as common as money that gets handled and dirtied. Instead, designs focus on nature, culture, and industry. Another famous coin is the 5 yen coin. It's considered very lucky. The Japanese pronunciation for 5 yen, go-en, is a homophone for go-en, which means good fortune or a fateful connection, especially in relationships. For this reason, 5 yen coins are often given as offerings at shrines and temples, with the hope of making a good connection with the deity. It's also the only modern coin that has its value written only in Japanese kanji, not Arabic numerals. The hole in the middle is said to allow good luck to pass through. It's a small coin with a big cultural meaning. So, where do you begin as a collector? The easiest way is to start with the modern circulating coins. Try to find one from every year. You might notice that some years are harder to find than others. This is because the mint produces fewer coins in certain years, making them rarer. For example, the 1 yen coin from Heisei year 31, which is 2019, is quite rare because it was the last year of that emperor's reign. You can look up mintage numbers online to see which years are the scarcest. For older coins like the Kanei Tsuho or Meiji-era silver yen, it's best to visit reputable coin shops or online dealers. When buying older coins, authenticity is key. It's a good idea to study a bit first. Visit museums like the Bank of Japan Currency Museum in Tokyo to see real examples. There are also many books and online forums dedicated to Japanese numismatics. Start small, learn to identify the key features of each coin, and be patient. A coin's value depends on its rarity, condition, and historical importance. A collection is more than just a pile of old metal. It's a tangible piece of history you can hold in your hand. Each coin tells a story, from the grand ambitions of shoguns to the everyday life of the people. Happy collecting!